The alarm blared throughout the USS Valiant as Lieutenant Jack Morris ran through the narrow corridor. Red emergency lights pulsed in rhythm with the siren. Smoke filled the air, and the taste of burning metal coated his tongue. Engineering team. Report, Jack shouted into his comm device. Only static answered him. It had been a routine patrol mission near the edge of human space. No one expected to encounter an alien vessel, especially not one that dwarfed their ship like a whale next. To a minnow, Jack coughed as he made his way to the bridge. The ship rocked violently, throwing him against the wall. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he kept moving. The pain was nothing new to him. For the past 8 months, pain had been his constant companion since his cancer diagnosis. The bridge. Doors were jammed. Jack forced them open with a manual override. Inside, chaos reigned. Captain Garza lay motionless on the floor. Communications Officer Patel worked frantically at her station despite the blood running down her face. "What's our status?" Jack asked, rushing to the weapons console. "We're dead in the water, sir," Patel said, her voice steady despite the situation. "They disabled our engines with the first hit. Shields are down. Life support is failing deck by deck." Jack looked at the main screen. The alien ship loomed outside, its dark hull covered in what looked like sharp spines. It was unlike anything in Earth's records. "Have they responded to our hails?" "They ignored all attempts at communication," Patel said. "Then they sent this." The screen changed to show a tall reptilian creature. Its skin was covered in iridescent scales that shifted from deep purple to blue under the light. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils stared at them. The alien stood at least 9 feet tall, with powerful muscles visible beneath its armor. "I am Commander Vrakar of the Krathul Empire," the creature said in perfect English. "Your species is unknown to us, but your technology is primitive. Your resistance is noted but futile. Prepare to be boarded." The transmission ended. "How many crew members are still alive?" Jack asked. Patel checked her screen. "Life signs indicate 23, sir. From a crew of 142. Jack closed his eyes briefly. The familiar ache in his abdomen reminded him of his own limited time. Stage 4 for pancreatic cancer. The doctors had given him weeks, maybe a month. He had chosen to spend his remaining days serving on the Valiant rather than in a hospital bed. "Send a distress signal on all frequencies. Include everything we know about this species," Jack ordered. "Already done, sir," Patel replied, "but I don't think help will come in time." The ship shuddered again. This time it wasn't from weapons. Fire. Something had attached to their hull. "They're boarding," Jack said. He pulled his sidearm and checked the charge. "Secure this station. I'll try to reach any survivors and organize resistance." Before he could leave, the lights flickered and died completely. When the emergency systems kicked in seconds later, the bridge doors slid open. 3 Krathul warriors stood in the doorway. They were massive, each carrying weapons that resembled spears, but glowed with energy along their tips. They moved with surprising speed for their size. Jack fired his weapon. The energy blast hit one warrior in the chest, but the alien barely flinched. Its scales seemed to absorb the impact. Patel grabbed her own weapon, but she never got to fire. A spear pierced her chest, pinning her to her station. Her eyes went wide with shock before the light faded from them. Jack emptied his weapon at the aliens, backing away until he hit the wall. The Krathul approached slowly, clearly not seeing him as a threat. "You fight with courage, small one," the lead warrior said. "But your primitive weapons cannot harm us." Jack coughed, tasting blood. He wasn't sure if it was from the smoke or his disease progressing. "What do you want from us?" "The Krathul Empire expands. We conquer. We test the worth of each species we encounter." The warrior gestured to Jack with his spear. "So far, yours has proven disappointing." More warriors entered the bridge. They moved with discipline, checking each station and the bodies of the fallen crew. "Commander Vrakar wishes to speak with any surviving officers," the lead warrior said. "You will come with us." Jack considered his options. There weren't many. He could die here fighting a battle he couldn't win, Or he could go with them and maybe learn something useful that might help Earth prepare for these aliens. The choice was easy. Jack lowered his empty weapon. The trip through his own ship was a nightmare. Bodies of crew members littered the corridors. Some had died at their stations, others fighting the invaders. The Krathul had been thorough and brutal. They led Jack to the hangar bay, where a shuttle waited to take him to the alien vessel. As they approached the shuttle, Jack felt his legs weaken. The pain in his abdomen flared sharply. He stumbled, falling to one knee. One of the warriors pulled him up roughly. "Stand, human. Show dignity in your defeat." Jack straightened with effort. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing his weakness. The alien ship was vast inside, with high ceilings and wide corridors that accommodated the Krathul's size. The air was warmer and more humid than humans preferred. It smelled strange, like a mixture of sulfur and something sweet. They brought Jack to what appeared to be a command center. Standing in the middle was the largest Krathul he had seen yet. This one's scales had a deeper blue tint, and intricate patterns were etched into the armor it wore. "I am Commander Vrakar," the alien said, turning to face Jack. "Known across 3 galactic sectors as the Unmerciful. I have conquered 17 species and personally defeated over 300 champions in ritual combat." Jack looked up at the towering figure. Despite everything, he felt strangely calm. Perhaps it was the certainty of his own approaching death, regardless of what these aliens did to him. "Lieutenant Jack Morris, Earth Defense Force," he replied simply. Vrakar studied him. "You are the last survivor of your vessel. The others fought poorly and died without honor." Anger flashed through Jack. They died defending themselves against an unprovoked attack. "All expansion requires conflict," Vrakar said dismissively. "Your people will have the opportunity to prove their worth before we claim your world. That is more mercy than most receive." Jack noticed trophies hanging from Vrakar's armor. Small objects that he realized with horror were bones and other remains from various species. "What do you want from me?" Jack asked. "Information about your homeworld's defenses, the location of your military installations, the capabilities of your weapons." Vrakar moved closer. "Provide this willingly, and your death will be quick. Resist, and you will learn why I am called the Unmerciful." Jack felt a sudden, strange urge to laugh. Here he was, already dying, being threatened with death by the most terrifying alien he could imagine. The irony wasn't lost on him. "I have a terminal illness," Jack said. "Your threats mean nothing to me." Vrakar's head tilted in what might have been curiosity. "Explain." "Cancer. A disease that's killing me from within. The doctors gave me weeks to live." Jack managed a smile. "So do your worst, Commander. I'm already a dead man." For the first time, the alien seemed uncertain. The concept of a dying man who didn't fear death clearly didn't fit into the Krathul understanding of the universe, and in that moment of confusion, Jack saw something he hadn't expected to find: an opportunity. Jack stood before Commander Vrakar, the pain in his abdomen a dull reminder of his limited time. The massive alien warrior towered over him, yellow eyes narrowed in confusion at Jack's lack of fear. "A disease that kills from within," Vrakar repeated. "And your healers can do nothing?" "They tried," Jack said, "but some battles can't be won." The alien commander circled Jack slowly. "Yet you chose to serve on a warship rather than spend your final days in comfort. Why?" Jack thought about his wife and daughter, both killed 3 years ago when an asteroid mining colony was destroyed in an accident. After their deaths, sitting in a hospital waiting to die seemed pointless. "I wanted my life to mean something," Jack said simply. Several other Krathul officers had gathered in the command center, watching the exchange with interest. Jack noticed they all bore scars and trophies, though none as impressive as Vrakar's. "You say you've conquered 17 species," Jack said. "You judge their worth by how well they fight?" Vrakar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The universe respects only strength. Those who cannot defend themselves deserve to be ruled by those who can." Jack looked around the room at the collected trophies and weapons. An idea formed in his mind. A crazy, suicidal idea. But then again, what did he have to lose? What if I challenged you? Jack asked suddenly. The room went silent. Vrakar stared at him. You would challenge me to combat? The alien's voice was a mix of surprise and amusement. You are half my size, from a weaker species and already dying. Jack nodded. Yes to all of that, but still I challenge you. The other Krathul began making sounds that Jack recognized as laughter. But Vrakar silenced them with a gesture. Why would you do this, human? You must know you cannot win. Jack met the alien's gaze steadily. Maybe winning isn't my goal. This seemed to intrigue Vrakar. He moved closer, studying Jack with newfound interest. Explain your reasoning. You're going to kill me anyway, Jack said. But before I die, I want to show you what humans are really made of. You think we're weak? I want a chance to prove otherwise. One of the other Krathul stepped forward. Commander, this is beneath you. Let me kill this creature and be done with it. Vrakar held up a hand. No. There is something unusual here. This human faces death twice and shows no fear. He turned back to Jack. Do you understand our combat rituals? Jack shook his head. The challenge must be honored, regardless of who issues it. It is our most sacred tradition. Vrakar's scales shifted colors slightly as he spoke. If you challenge me, I must accept. But the combat will be to the death. I expected nothing less, Jack replied. Very well. I accept your challenge. Vrakar turned to one of his officers. Prepare the combat arena. The ritual will take place in 3 cycles. 3 cycles? Jack asked. What you would call 3 Earth days, Vrakar explained. You will be given quarters and food. You may prepare yourself as you wish. Jack hadn't expected to be given time to prepare. He'd assumed the combat would happen immediately. This might actually give him a chance to learn more about the Krathul, maybe even find a weakness. Take him to the scientist, Vrakar ordered. Dr. Zalen will want to study this human before he dies. 2 guards led Jack through the massive ship. The corridors were filled with Krathul warriors who stared at the small human with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Jack memorized the route as best he could, noting security checkpoints and what appeared to be weapon stations. They arrived at a large laboratory filled with strange equipment. A smaller Krathul with lighter-colored scales was examining something under a device, similar to a microscope. Dr. Zalen, one of the guards announced, the human prisoner who has challenged Commander Vrakar. The scientist turned quickly, eyes widening with interest. Fascinating. The first human specimen we've encountered, and it has chosen ritual. Combat. Zalen moved closer to Jack, examining him without touching. May I ask why? I'm already dying, Jack said. I figured I might as well make it count for something. Dying? From what cause? Zalen asked, picking up a handheld scanner. Cancer. Stage 4. It spread throughout my body. Zalen ran the scanner over Jack's torso. Ah, yes, I detect abnormal cell growth, quite aggressive. Your species has not cured this disease. We can cure many types, but not all. Not mine. The scientist seemed genuinely interested. And your medical professionals gave you a specific time frame for survival? Weeks. A month at most. Zalen set down the scanner. Based on my readings, they were optimistic. I would estimate 2 weeks, perhaps less. Jack felt a chill at the casual confirmation of his impending death, but he pushed the feeling aside. Then I'd better make the most of the time I have. Indeed. Zalen gestured to a chair. Please sit. I have many questions about human physiology. The next few hours were spent with Jack answering Zalen's questions while the scientist took measurements and samples. Jack used the opportunity to ask his own questions about Krathul biology, claiming curiosity about the species that would end his life. Zalen seemed pleased to share knowledge with a fellow curious mind, explaining details about Krathul vision, respiration, and physical abilities. Our scales are our greatest defense, Zalen said proudly. They can resist most energy weapons and projectiles. What about your eyes? Jack asked. They seem less protected. True, but our nictitating membrane provides some protection. Zalen demonstrated by blinking sideways, a clear membrane sliding across his yellow eyes. Our vision is excellent, though we see better in infrared spectrums than you humans likely do. Jack filed away each piece of information. Even with this knowledge, he stood no chance in direct combat against Vrakar, but perhaps there were other ways to approach the fight. Later, a guard took Jack to a small but comfortable room. There was a sleeping platform, sanitation facilities, and a screen showing various parts of the ship. Food and water were provided, though the alien food tasted strange to Jack. As he sat on the edge of the sleeping platform, Jack felt the familiar pain in his abdomen intensify. He doubled over, gritting his teeth until it passed. Zalin was right. He probably had less time than the Earth doctors had estimated. But that didn't matter now. What mattered was the opportunity he had created. 3 days to learn as much as possible about the Krathul. 3 days to prepare for a fight he couldn't possibly win in the conventional sense. Jack lay back and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere out there was Earth, blissfully unaware of the threat approaching. The USS Valiant's distress signal might have gotten through, but even if it did, would Earth's defenses be enough against these aliens? No, Jack realized. Not unless they understood what they were up against. Not unless they knew the Krathul's weaknesses. And that's exactly what Jack intended to find out, even if it cost him what little life he had left. Outside his room, Jack heard 2 Krathul guards talking. The human has courage, at least. One said. Courage or madness, replied the other. Either way, it will die like the rest. Jack smiled to himself. They had no idea what a human with nothing to lose was capable of, and they were about to find out. The second day aboard the Krathul ship began with Jack waking to intense pain. He curled into a ball on the sleeping platform, waiting for it to pass. When it finally eased, he sat up slowly and drank some water. His door slid open, and Dr. Zalin entered carrying several devices. Good morning, human, the scientist said. I have been authorized to continue my studies while you prepare for combat. Jack nodded. I'd like to see recordings of Commander Vrakar's previous fights if possible. Zalin tilted his head. An unusual request. Do you hope to find a weakness in the greatest warrior of the Krathul Empire? Know your enemy, Jack said with a shrug. It's a human saying. Interesting. We have a similar concept. Zalin set down his equipment and adjusted the screen on the wall. I will show you some records, though they will not help you. No one has defeated Commander Vrakar in 300 ritual combats. The screen displayed Vrakar fighting various alien creatures. Some were large and powerful, others quick and agile. All ended the same way, lying dead at the commander's feet. Jack watched carefully, looking for patterns in how Vrakar moved and attacked. The commander was surprisingly fast for his size and seemed to favor his right side slightly. What weapons will be allowed in our combat? Jack asked. Both participants may choose one non-projectile weapon, Zalin explained. Most challengers choose something large to match the commander's strength. It rarely helps them. Jack continued to study the recordings. He noticed something else. When bright lights flashed in the arena, Vrakar always blinked that extra membrane Zalin had mentioned yesterday. The action was quick, but it slowed his reactions for a split second. Tell me about Krathul honor in combat, Jack said. Are there rules about how one must fight? Zalin seemed pleased by the question. The combat ritual is sacred. One must face one's opponent directly. No poisons or hidden weapons are permitted. Victory must come through skill and strength. The scientist's scales rippled with what Jack now recognized as pride. It is the purest test of worthiness. And what happens if I were to somehow win? Jack asked. Zalin made the sound Jack had learned was Krathul laughter. Impossible. But in such a case, you would earn great respect, and your species would be considered worthy of diplomatic relations rather than conquest. So there's a lot at stake, Jack mused. Indeed. Though the outcome is certain. Jack wasn't so sure. The more he learned about Krathul biology and culture, the more he began to see possibilities. Not for survival. Jack knew he would die either way. but perhaps for something more important, giving Earth a fighting chance. Later that day, Jack was escorted to the ship's training area to select a weapon. The walls were lined with various blades, staffs, and other weapons from across the galaxy. A Krathul warrior named Grek supervised him. "Choose wisely, human, though it will make little difference." Jack examined the weapons carefully. Most were too heavy for a human to wield effectively. He passed over the large blades and battle axes that would impress the Krathul, but would only slow him down. Finally, he selected a simple metal staff about 5 feet long. It was lightweight but strong. Grek snorted. "A poor choice. It will snap against the commander's warblade." "Maybe," Jack said, "but it feels right in my hands." Grek allowed Jack to practice with the staff in a small area of the training room. Jack went through basic movements, getting a feel for the weapon's balance and reach. His military training had included various weapons, though he had specialized in tactical systems rather than combat. As he practiced, Jack observed the Krathul warriors training nearby. Their movements were powerful, but somewhat predictable. They relied heavily on their natural strength and armor-like scales. When Jack returned to his quarters, he found new garments laid out, a simple tunic and pants made of a tough material. Combat clothes, he assumed. Dr. Zalin visited again, taking more readings of Jack's vital signs. "Your condition deteriorates," the scientist noted. "You are in pain." Jack nodded. "It's manageable." "I could provide something for the pain," Zalin offered. "It would not violate the combat rules." Jack considered this. "Would it affect my alertness?" "Slightly, perhaps." "Then no thank you. I need all my wits about me tomorrow." Zalin seemed impressed by this response. "Most beings seek to avoid pain. You humans are unusual." "Pain means I'm still alive," Jack said. "And while I'm alive, I still have a purpose." The scientist studied him with those yellow eyes. "What purpose does a dying human serve by facing certain death in our combat ritual?" Jack smiled. "That's between me and the universe." That night, Jack could not sleep. The pain was worse, but that wasn't what kept him awake. He was thinking about Earth, about the people there who had no idea what was coming. He thought about his wife and daughter, gone now, but still precious in his memory. Jack had formulated a plan, but it relied on several factors beyond his control. Still, it was better than nothing. He would not defeat Vrakar in direct combat. That was impossible. But perhaps he could achieve something else, something that might matter more in the long run. As artificial dawn broke on the third day, a deep sound resonated through the ship, some kind of horn or signal. The door to Jack's quarters opened, and Grek stood there with 2 other warriors. "It is time, human," Grek said. "The combat ritual will begin in 1 hour. The entire ship will witness your courage and your death." Jack stood and straightened his tunic. The pain in his abdomen was intense, but he kept his face neutral. He would not show weakness now. "Let's not keep them waiting," he said. The arena was massive, a circular space surrounded by tiered seating filled with hundreds, perhaps thousands of Krathul. They made a constant low rumbling sound that Jack realized was their version of excited conversation. Jack was led to one side of the arena where his staff waited. Across the open space, a door twice the size of the others opened, and Commander Vrakar entered to thunderous sounds from the crowd. The commander wore ceremonial armor that left his arms and parts of his torso exposed, showing off his impressive scales. He carried a curved blade that glowed faintly along its edge. Around his neck and attached to his armor were dozens of small trophies, bone fragments and other remains from previous opponents. An older Krathul with elaborate scale patterns stepped into the center of the arena and raised his arms. The crowd fell silent. "Today we witness sacred combat," the elder announced. "Commander Vrakar, undefeated champion of the Krathul Empire, faces a challenger from the species known as human." The elder turned to look at Jack. "The ritual is, to the death. May the stronger being prevail, as is the way of the universe." Jack picked up his staff and stepped forward. The pain in his body seemed distant now, pushed aside by focus and adrenaline. He knew this was his last day alive, but if his plan worked, his death might mean something. Commander Vrakar moved to the center of the arena, yellow eyes fixed on Jack. His massive form cast a shadow across the ground. "I will make your death quick, human," Vrakar said quietly. "You have earned that much respect." Jack gripped his staff tighter and replied, "Don't make promises you can't keep." The elder raised his arm one final time, then dropped it swiftly. "Begin." Vrakar lunged forward with shocking speed for his size. His glowing blade sliced through the air where Jack had been standing a split second earlier. Jack had anticipated the direct attack and rolled to the side, using his smaller size and quickness to his advantage. The crowd roared as Jack came up in a defensive stance, staff held before him. Vrakar turned, his yellow eyes narrowing. "You are quicker than you look," the commander said. Jack didn't waste breath responding. He needed every ounce of energy for what was to come. His plan relied on making this fight last as long as possible, not on winning it. Vrakar attacked again, this time with a series of powerful swings. Jack blocked the first with his staff, the impact sending painful vibrations up his arms. He dodged the second and third strikes, always moving, never staying in one place. "Stop dancing and fight," a voice shouted from the crowd. Other Krathul joined in, demanding blood. Jack knew he couldn't keep dodging forever. His body was already tired, the cancer sapping his strength. He needed to act soon. When Vrakar charged again, Jack did something unexpected. Instead of dodging away, he dodged toward the commander, ducking under the blade and striking at the commander's knee joint with his staff. The blow connected solidly. Vrakar grunted in surprise but seemed largely unharmed. Still, the crowd fell momentarily silent. No one had expected the human to land a hit. "First blood will be mine," Vrakar growled, attacking with renewed fury. Jack continued his strategy of dodge and strike, targeting the joints where he had noticed the scales were thinner. He landed several more hits, none doing serious damage, but each one causing murmurs of surprise from the audience. 5 minutes into the fight, Jack was breathing hard. His muscles burned, and the pain in his abdomen was intensifying. But he had accomplished the first part of his plan. He had surprised them. Now for the next phase. Jack reached into a small pocket he had sewn into his tunic. Inside were several small metal pieces he had secretly broken off from fixtures in his quarters. He had sharpened them against the floor during the night. The next time Vrakar attacked, Jack threw the first metal shard directly at the commander's eye. Vrakar's protective membrane slid into place just in time, but the reflex gave Jack the moment he needed to strike again at the commander's knee, harder this time. Vrakar roared, more in anger than pain. "Tricks will not save you, human." "Not trying to save myself," Jack said, his voice steady despite his ragged breathing. "Just trying to make a point." The commander charged again. This time his blade caught Jack's staff, slicing clean through it. Jack was left holding 2 shortened pieces. Without hesitation, he turned this to his advantage, using the broken ends as 2 separate weapons. The crowd was fully engaged now. What had started as a simple execution had become actual combat. Many were shouting encouragement to their champion, but some were watching the human with growing respect. 10 minutes into the fight, Jack felt something tear inside him. A sharp pain ripped through his torso, and he tasted blood in his mouth. His body was failing faster than expected. He needed to move to the final phase of his plan. Using the last of his strength, Jack launched a flurry of attacks, forcing Vrakar to defend rather than attack. It was a shocking reversal, the small, dying human pressing forward against the mighty Krathul warrior. In the midst of this exchange, Jack pulled out his final trick. He had salvaged a small power cell from a light fixture in his room and modified it with the help of his basic engineering knowledge. Now he struck it hard against the floor near Vrakar's feet. The cell exploded in a blinding flash of light. The entire arena was momentarily dazzled, but the effect on Vrakar was more pronounced. The commander stumbled backward, his sensitive eyes overwhelmed despite the protective membrane. Jack didn't hesitate. He drove one of his broken staff pieces forward with all his remaining strength, aiming for the spot just below Vrakar's arm where he had noticed the scales were thinnest. The sharpened wood pierced the commander's hide. For a moment, everyone in the arena froze. Then blue blood began to seep from the wound. Vrakar looked down in shock. You have drawn my blood." The crowd erupted in chaos. No opponent had wounded Commander Vrakar in living memory. Jack stood his ground, swaying slightly. Blood, now running freely from his mouth. His body was shutting down, but he had accomplished what he set out to do. Vrakar touched the wound, looking at his own blood on his fingers. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed. "Well fought, Jack Morris of Earth," the commander said. "You have earned the right to die with honor." Jack smiled despite the pain. "That's not why I'm here." Before Vrakar could respond, Jack collapsed, to his knees. The cancer was winning its battle faster than expected, accelerated by the exertion of combat, but Jack wasn't finished yet. He looked up at the towering commander. "I want to talk about Earth." Vrakar raised his blade, prepared to deliver the killing blow as tradition demanded, but something in Jack's unwavering gaze made him pause. "You knew you could not win," Vrakar said. "Yet you fought as if victory was possible. Why?" Jack coughed, more blood speckling his lips. "Because this fight isn't about me. It's about my people." He gestured to the crowd. "Look around you, they're watching. They're learning that humans aren't easy prey." A murmur ran through the arena as Jack's words were translated and repeated. The Krathul valued courage above all else, and here was a dying human showing more courage than many of their own warriors. "You have proven yourself a worthy opponent," Vrakar said, lowering his blade slightly. "Few have ever drawn my blood." Jack nodded weakly. "Then honor me with a final request. Take my message to your leaders." The commander hesitated, then nodded. "Speak your message." Jack summoned his remaining strength to make his voice carry. "Humans don't fear death like you think. We fear meaningless lives. If you come to Earth looking for conquest, you'll find millions more like me, willing to die if it means protecting our home." He looked directly into Vrakar's eyes. "We may not have your strength or your scales, but we have something you don't understand yet. We have hope. And people with hope are very dangerous enemies." A strange silence fell over the arena. Jack could see confusion on many Krathul faces. They had expected a simple execution, not a demonstration of alien philosophy. Vrakar studied Jack with newfound interest. "Your words are as sharp as your combat skills, human. Perhaps there is more to learn about your species before we pass judgment." Jack felt darkness creeping at the edges of his vision. His time was nearly up. But he had one more card to play. "Commander Vrakar," Jack said, his voice now barely above a whisper, "I want to tell you a secret about humans." The commander leaned closer to hear. "We never—" Jack started, but then the arena light suddenly went out. Emergency red lighting kicked in seconds later. An announcement blared in the Krathul language, followed by the sound of distant explosions. Jack smiled through his pain. Perfect timing. The distraction had arrived. Across the ship, chaos erupted as the USS Phantom, a stealth vessel that had been tracking the Krathul flagship, began its assault. Captain Ellen Reyes and her team had monitored the distress signal from the Valiant and arrived just in time to witness the combat ritual through their surveillance systems. In the confusion, a small team of human special forces led by Lieutenant Daniel Wright slipped into the arena through a service corridor. They had one mission: extract Lieutenant Jack Morris if possible, and gather intelligence at minimum. As Vrakar bellowed orders to his warriors, Jack fell forward onto the arena floor. He had given everything he had. Whether he lived or died, now, he had accomplished his mission. He had shown the Krathul that humans were not to be underestimated. The last thing Jack saw before losing consciousness was a familiar face in Earth Defense Force tactical gear kneeling beside him. "Hang on, Jack," Lieutenant Wright said. "We're getting you out of here." Jack woke to the soft beeping of medical equipment. His vision was blurry, but he could make out the familiar ceiling of a human ship's medical bay. For a moment he wondered if everything had been a dream, but the pain in his body confirmed otherwise. "He's awake," a voice said nearby. A face came into view, Captain Ellen Reyes of the USS Phantom. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and concern lined her eyes. "Lieutenant Morris," she said, "welcome back." Jack tried to speak but found his throat too dry. A nurse helped him sip water through a straw. "How?" Jack finally managed to ask. "We picked up the Valiant's distress signal," Reyes explained. "By the time we reached your coordinates, the ship was gone. We tracked the Krathul, a vessel using our stealth systems." She smiled slightly. "Then we saw your performance in their arena. Quite a show." Jack looked around, taking in the small medical bay. "The rescue, was it part of your plan all along?" "Not exactly. We were gathering intelligence, trying to assess the threat. But when we saw what you were doing, we realized you'd created the perfect distraction." She paused. "Your message to the Krathul commander was being broadcast throughout their ship. Even our translators picked it up." Jack tried to sit up but couldn't. "Did anyone else make it from the Valiant?" Reyes shook her head. "I'm sorry. You were the only survivor." Jack closed his eyes briefly, remembering his fallen crewmates. When he opened them again, he asked, "What happened after I passed out?" "Lieutenant, Wright and his team got you out during the confusion. We hit their engines with targeted strikes, just enough to slow them down without destroying the ship." Reyes checked the medical readout beside Jack's bed. "The doctor says you've got severe internal bleeding. The cancer has progressed significantly." Jack wasn't surprised. He had felt his body failing during the fight. "How long?" "A few days. Maybe less," Reyes said gently. "I'm sorry." Jack nodded. He had accepted his fate long ago. "And the Krathul? That's where things get interesting." Reyes pulled up a chair beside his bed. 6 hours after we escaped with you, they sent a communication request. Commander Vrakar wants to speak with you." Jack raised his eyebrows in surprise. "With me? Why?" He wouldn't say. But Earth Defense Command thinks this could be important. The Krathul have agreed to hold position while we talk. No hostile actions on either side for now. A new voice joined the conversation. "He respects you." Jack turned, his head to see Dr. Julie Hansen, the ship's medical officer, checking his vital signs. "You did what no one has done before. You wounded him in fair combat while dying yourself. To a culture that values strength and courage above all else, that's significant." Jack considered this. "Can I speak with him?" Reyes nodded. "That's why I'm here. If you're willing, we can set up the communication now." "Do it," Jack said. Despite his weakness, he was determined to see this through. 20 minutes later, a screen was set up beside Jack's bed. When it activated, Commander Vrakar's massive form filled the display. The blue blood on his scales had dried, but he had not removed the stain, perhaps wearing Jack's achievement as a badge of honor. "Lieutenant Jack Morris," Vrakar said, his deep voice filling the small medical bay. "You survive." "For now," Jack replied. The commander studied him for a moment. "Your combat skills were impressive for one so ill, but your final words interested me more." "Which words were those?" "About humans and hope." Vrakar's scales shifted slightly. "My scientists tell me that hope is not a tactical advantage, yet you spoke of it as a weapon." Jack smiled weakly. "Hope isn't something you can measure or analyze. It's what keeps humans fighting even when logic says we should surrender." Vrakar was silent for a moment, then said, "The High Council has reviewed the combat recording. They are curious about your species now. Your actions have raised questions about our initial assessment." Jack felt a surge of satisfaction. This was exactly what he had hoped for, to make the Krathul reconsider their view of humanity. "I have been authorized to offer terms," Vrakar continued. "We will delay our planned exploration of your star system. Instead, we propose a diplomatic exchange. Our representatives would meet with yours to learn more about each other." Captain Reyes, standing just out of view of the screen, gave Jack a small nod. This was an unexpected victory. "I think that's a wise decision, Commander," Jack said. "There's a lot our species could learn from each other." "Perhaps," Frikar agreed, "though I wonder if all humans share your particular courage." "We're as varied as your own people, I'm sure," Jack said. "But when threatened, you'll find most of us are willing to stand and fight." The commander touched the wound below his arm, now scabbing over. "So I have learned." He held up a small object, a piece of Jack's broken staff, the one that had pierced his scales. "I will keep this as a reminder not to underestimate those who appear weak." Jack felt a wave of pain wash over him, and he grimaced. Dr. Hansen quickly adjusted his medication. Frikar noticed. "You are near your end." "Yes," Jack admitted. "But I'm at peace with it." The massive alien warrior did something surprising then. He placed his closed fist against his chest in what appeared to be a salute. "In our culture, a warrior who knows death is coming but faces it without fear is considered blessed," Frikar said. "You have earned the right to be remembered, Jack Morris of Earth." "Thank you," Jack said. "But remember the lesson more than the man." After the communication ended, Jack fell back against his pillow, exhausted but satisfied. Captain Reyes approached. His bedside. "Earth Defense Command just received the official diplomatic request from the Krathul," she said. "They're calling an emergency session to discuss it." She placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "You've given us a chance, Lieutenant. You may have saved countless lives." Jack smiled faintly. Not bad for a dying man. Over the next 2 days, Jack's condition deteriorated rapidly. Dr. Hansen made him as comfortable as possible, but the cancer was relentless. Despite his weakening state, Jack helped debrief Earth's military leaders, sharing everything he had learned about the Krathul, their biology, technology, culture, and most importantly, their psychology. Visitors came to thank him, including Lieutenant Wright and his rescue team. Jack accepted their gratitude quietly, insisting that he had only done what anyone would do in his position. On the final night, as Jack lay drifting between consciousness and sleep, Dr. Hansen checked his vitals one last time. "Are you afraid?" she asked softly. Jack shook his head slightly. "No, I found what I was looking for." "What was that?" "Purpose," Jack whispered. "My life had meaning in the end." He closed his eyes and his breathing slowed. On a distant screen, diplomatic negotiations were beginning between Earth representatives and the Krathul delegates. In the midst of stars and politics and alien cultures, one man's courage had changed the course of history. Commander Frikar kept his word. The piece of Jack's staff was mounted in a place of honor in his quarters. When other Krathul asked about the simple wooden object, he would tell them the story of a dying human who faced death twice and flinched at neither. And on Earth, in the years that followed, children would learn about Lieutenant Jack Morris, who with nothing left to lose had shown a fearsome alien race that humans were not to be underestimated. Not because of our strength or our technology or our numbers, but because of our hope,